Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Nate and Josh coming here with one more episode before the All-Star break, and then we will have an All-Star weekend episode as we have done now for roughly, I think, at least 3 years going on, 4 now with these All-Star game and weekend bets. Will I bet another under in the All-Star total? We'll find out, but definitely like and subscribe to that page so you can continue to follow along with us as we come right back after this All-Star break is done as well. Also want you to head to thelines.com and keep following everything we're putting up on the site, including that prop finder tool that we have up there to make sure you're getting the best juice available on all these bets that you're making in the NBA this season. Nate, let's get right into your first best bet on this little 3-game slate to close out the first half of the season.
Yeah, Bucks at the Grizz here. Grizz will be on a home back-to-back, and I will take under 226.5 if the number stays around there. Milwaukee's defensive turnaround is just really notable. They're also playing slower by design, it seems, to kind of fix some of that transition defense issue, and that's just, what Doc Rivers brings to the table as a old-school coach. And so in 9 under Doc, they're 8-1 to the under. They're playing at a 97.5 pace. Last 3 in particular, when they got Patrick Beverley in there, and when they started to sort of fit with the system, 103 defensive rating, but the offense is suffering on the other end. I don't know if it ever really was great this year. It's kind of Giannis making up for a lot of issues, but just 109 points per game, 17.5 free throws in these last few. Giannis has not necessarily crushed Memphis. They used to have a lot more bulk down low than they do right now, but kind of institutionally, coaching-wise, they can limit him. And Dame, who knows what's going on with him. He admitted, there's just a lot going on in his head right now, a lot of distractions. He's in a slump. His last 5 road games, he's averaging 20, which is, part what you're talking about with the same game parlay here is that's his floor still kind of, but it's a very inefficient 20. It's 104 offensive rating, and, it's going to continue to be high volume because Chris Middleton's out, but I don't necessarily see – basically what I'm saying is I don't think Milwaukee's going to be the Milwaukee that scored us 120 plus all the time, and you can count on the Grizzlies not scoring much more than 105 probably. They also do not play fast. They have not reached a 100 pace in 14 straight games. They're averaging 102 during that span. Their defense pretty good, though. Top 10 3-point D, limiting second chance points. Number 2, forcing turnovers, which when you get Giannis and company into that kind of situation, where they're turning it over more often than he's getting to the line, then that offense gets a little clunky, and that's exactly what Memphis is going to try to do here, to clunk it up and keep it relatively close and go into the All-Star break. This might as well be their Super Bowl. What else do they have to play for other than to try to cover against Milwaukee with all these G Leaguers?
Yeah, and it's just going to be another weird night. I think Wednesday night was a bit weird in a lot of ways as well. Certain guys are already, in Playa del Carmen or wherever they're vacationing here for the next week. And so as a result, you're going to see some wonkiness for sure. And in this one, I don't know that the Bucks are going to necessarily bring it. I don't think they'll necessarily take a day off because they just lost pretty badly in their last game there to the Heat. But at the same time, I would say the Bucks not bringing it matters more on offense than it does on defense, where I do think that finally, Doc Rivers has instilled at least something of a get back on defense culture. Let's just call it that, because at least they're not just giving up transition points and leaking them out. Not that Memphis would take advantage of that anyway. Houston had to play horribly tonight to give up close to 120 maybe at this point to Memphis in their game. Memphis shot the lights out. Houston is as big of a train wreck right now, to be honest with you, as I would say the Grizzlies are. And so that we don't put much stock in that. But I'll just finish up the point with my first best bet, because it is Dame's 20 points with the same game parlay. I'm also considering throwing, I think you might be able to throw Brook Lopez 3-pointer in there. It's probably going to be at 1.5 made threes for Brook. And he's taking just as many above the break threes as Dame is. And that's a big part of why I'm going into Dame. You mentioned, by the way, I'm going to parlay that with not just the money line, the 4.5 points for Milwaukee. I want to just take an alt spread and chop this thing down from the 10 it is and get it under 5, so I can just feel good about the way that I do think Milwaukee's going to win, like you said, back-to-back for Memphis. I don't know that they need to rest anybody. They don't have anybody that they're let's make sure this guy doesn't get hurt, obviously, other than Triple J moving forward. He's the only dude who's like for sure a part of their team moving forward. So I don't know that they're going to necessarily. I mean, it's not like they're going to bring it or less or more. They're always going to bring it the same amount. These dudes are playing for spots in the NBA more than they are playing to win games at this point for Memphis. To answer the question that you asked is like, what are they playing for? Yeah, NBA contracts is what they're playing for. And at the same time, that, like I said, that'll only increase the defense for those dudes who aren't good enough to necessarily score on this Bucks team who is finally playing defense. But for the Dame stuff, it's like, look, do you think he's going to break out of the slump enough to score 20? Like you said, that's his floor. He had 18 the other night in like 20 minutes in that blowout loss, and another small amount of minutes in that blowout win that they had against the Nuggets, where he scored 18 as well. So like, yeah, I think this is still right around where he should. Even if he misses 10 to 15 shots and he's taking 18 to 20, we should be, well, let's say 17 to 18 because of the slow pace of this game, but he should still be in line for the 20 points at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's the volume with Middleton out. You expect him to shoot enough, like even if he misses, that 20 points is a safe floor here. And Memphis's point guard defense, their defense at the point of attack is not nearly what it used to be. So, I mean, I think we'll have fun watching this game at least. Golden State at Utah to close things out. Golden State's going to be on a back-to-back, and we don't know if they are able to get it done here against the Clippers as we record on Wednesday night. But I will still take them in a pick'em line, really, as it opens here at Utah. Utah is also going to be on a back-to-back, and Golden State has been far superior in terms of, the quick turnaround. Their last three back-to-backs, yes, they did lose two of them. Overtime loss at Atlanta and a very close, exciting, high-scoring loss against the Kings, but then they smacked the Pacers, and I mean, what I'm just looking at is what Steph did in all three of those. Just absolutely en fuego. 42, 60, and 33 points on much better than 50% shooting. Hitting well over 7 threes per game on insane volume. I think he had double-digit threes in two of those, and he has continued that in normal rest situations in his last three leading into this Clippers game. Talk about him in player props, because I'm kind of hoping that the Clippers, who have historically found a way to slow him down, they cool him off, and then you know what happens when he has an off game. Comes immediately back. And Utah is not a team that cools him off. His last two against them, 29 a game, 6.5 threes at 45%. And I mean, I didn't find the exact metrics on this, but how often do the Warriors lose when Steph hits 6 threes? Like not very often these days. I mean, with Draymond back anchoring the defense, they are a two-way team once again. Steph's numbers have spiked with Draymond back at full swing here. And look, Utah, they sold off some of their depth, and now they're playing rookies. Keontae George, Taylor Hendricks enter the rotation. It's sort of like a repeat of what we saw last season with them, where they were looking really promising for a while, and then Danny and the front office was like, why do we really want to make the play-in game? Like, what are we even doing here? And like, let's just let it ride here. And I mean, so they had that promising stretch, and now their offense is not really keeping up with the fact that they're an atrocious defense. And and I mean, their last few on the back-to-back, they have not been scoring at all. 112 a game on the season. Horrible assist to turnover ratio. They were in this situation with the Knicks when both teams were on a back-to-back. Very shorthanded Knicks team, very tired Knicks team, and still could not get the win. So I'll take the Warriors regardless of what happens with the Clips here.
Yeah, I'm with that. The wonkiness that I would see in this game is like some of the starters for the Dubs getting slightly fewer minutes. To answer your question, shout out StatMuse, the Warriors' record in his career when he makes 6 threes or more is 164-49. It's a very good winning percentage. Their winning percentage this year, it's actually, I knew that it was bad, worse than normal. It's 13-7, still well above 500, but I knew it was worse because he's got a 50-point game and a 60-point game that they lost, both of them this season. And one of those was without Draymond. So like, yeah, he was just, the shots are going to be there, man. He shoot 38 times in that Atlanta game that they lost on the back-to-back. Yeah, the field goal attempts are going to be there. But what a great stat that if he makes 6 or more threes, they're basically like, they have 115 more wins than when he does not, than they do losses in that standpoint. So yeah, there's got to be some correlation between a man having 18 points from 3 alone and his team winning. But let me close it out, and I'll be the one to talk about the Portland Trailblazers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'll bite that bullet here and just say that I do think that the total for the game here goes over 214.5. I think that probably bumps up to like 215.5 at the least by the time people see this tomorrow, but not much above 216 as the ceiling where I would see, even if people want to bet this up like I'm talking about here, because look, we just saw this happen, but really, let's just start with the fact that the way that the wonkiness affects this game is, do you think the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to try again on defense against these Portland Trailblazers? Do you think they tried last time? I don't. And we really just need Portland to get like a $105, and we should be able to get the 215, right? Like, I can't see the Timberwolves not caring that much that they just let it go. Now, Ant is questionable. You don't really need to play him, it would seem like, if you don't want to, if you're Chris Finch. But at the same time, like, you want to make sure you get this W. And even if he doesn't play, Cat increases his output at that point. Maybe we get some Jordan McLaughlin in there as well. But more importantly, like, for the over in this game, I mean, let's just start with Portland. They kind of had a stretch of like being okay on defense and scoring really low scoring games. And I still don't expect them to score a ton of points here. But Malcolm Brogdon's out, and as much as that means they don't score without him, it also means they give up a lot more without him. They have 124.5 defensive rating when he's not in games versus the 117 that they have in the games that he plays in. So they're a bad defensive team, however you cut it, but definitely in that as well. For Minnesota, they've hit this number at least on the road in 4 straight roadies, 5 of their last 6 on the road as well, that they've gone over this number. And like I said, can't see them carrying enough. Portland's D is all the way down at 29th now on the season, 21st in the last 5 and 10 games. And then for them, this number has gone over in 8 of their last 10 games. That's because, in part, they're dead last in limiting offensive rebounds to the opponent. So that does mean that guys like Cat, Rudy, even McDaniels, they're going to be attacking those boards pretty consistently. And then the fouls for both teams. I do think we're going to see a bit of foul shooting that similar to what we saw last game, especially for the Timberwolves here. The Portland Trail Blazers have the 7th highest opponent free throw attempt rate. Minnesota is 5th in their offensive free throw attempt rate and in their last 5 games, and 6th on the season as well. So it's something they do all year, is attack the rim, very high rim frequency and field goal percentage when they get to the rim. They're also hitting a ton of corner threes, where they're really finding guys for that shot because of honestly, because of the lack of 3-point shooting from further away when they get above the break is outside of Ant. And honestly, over the last couple of weeks, Mike Conley as well has been good from above the break, but they're definitely finding guys in the corner to try to, once Ant drives, or you get Rudy down low, Cat down low, and then you find those kickouts as well when they've been getting doubled. So with the way that the Minnesota Timberwolves are shooting that ball really well from the corner, the Portland Trail Blazers defense does not rotate well enough to get around to stuff like that. So yeah, the free throws will be there. I think the threes will be there for Minnesota more than you might expect. This should be about a 220 total.
Yeah, I mean, it hit last time. People were pointing out that this is a pretty low total, for any NBA game, and you can't just expect the Wolves to put the clamps on multiple games in a row. I mean, it's a maturity thing with this team. Like, their 3 main guys, I would not characterize any of them as mature. And when they get the huge win against the Clippers and they hold them to 100 and then they're smelling themselves, it's like you expect a letdown. Yeah, they did give up 109 to a Blazers team that doesn't have a ton of weaponry, and we'll see what happens in the very same matchup. It's that weird home and home situation. But if you get up 109 again, yeah, this game's going over. Ant had 40 last time, so I would expect that to kind of even out with a little more Cat or someone else. But anyone can score on the Blazers, and I think the Wolves should be able to hold up their end of the bargain there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page. Also check out the Playa Props that we have up for you each and every day that we have Hoop. We are going to have an All-Star episode as well, quick reminder. So I want to make sure you check that out. And until we see you next, happy betting.